The old man been keeping you busy? Said Ned, tearing himself away with an effort from Portia's smile. It's been fascinating, truly fascinating. You work for Ned's dad, right? Said Gordon. That's right. In fact, I ought really... Well, actually, here's an idea. I don't suppose you'd like to come with me. I've got to go over to the house now. Maybe I could show you round. The House? Of Commons. Parliament. Of course, only if it would interest you. Sure, that sounds great. What a brilliant idea! Ned grinned with pleasure. Ash, that's completely decent of you. I bet Gordon would love to see where it all goes on. The cradle of democracy and all that. Very well, then, I'll just get my briefcase, said Ashley, prickling with annoyance at Ned's fatuous remark. Cradle of democracy, indeed. Did he not know that Americans regard Washington as the cradle of democracy, just as the French did Paris and the Greeks Athens and, no doubt, the Icelanders Reykjavik, each with as much reason? Such typically casual arrogance. We'll stay here, if that's okay, Ned was saying. Portia has to be at a job interview at 4. The Knightsbridge College. Thought I'd, take her there. Something good? It sounds grand, but it just means teaching foreigners how to say, "This tomato is too expensive," Portia said. It does pay better than the Hard Rock Cafe, though. She and Ned were holding hands now. It was apparent that every second out of each other's arms was agony to them. Ashley supposed that much of the agony came from a traditional lover's quandary that they were too dull-witted to interpret. They wanted to conceal their passion, but they couldn't understand why they also wanted desperately to show it off. Ashley felt an intense desire to be violently sick. "Thought it best to leave them to it," he said, closing the front door and looking up at the top-floor window with what he trusted was a reasonable approximation of laddish worldliness. "They'll be at it like knives before we've taken 2 steps." Gordon did not respond, but looked down at the ground with pursed lips. Ashley watched him curiously. Was this American Puritanism or something deeper? Good God! The instant the possibility struck Ashley, he knew it to be right. He could have laughed aloud at his perception. Cousin Gordon is in love with Portia, he told himself with absolute assurance. The essential truth that people always failed to understand about intelligence, Ashley believed, was that it allowed its possessor deeper intuition and keener instincts than those granted to others. Stupid people liked to delude themselves that while they may not be clever, they were at least able to compensate with feelings and insights denied to the intellectual. Drivel, Ashley thought. It was precisely this kind of false belief that made stupid people so stupid. The truth was that clever people had infinitely more resources from which to make the leaps of connection that the world called intuition. What was intelligence, after all, but the ability to read into things? The Romans, as so often, knew better than the Britons. They turned and walked along Catherine Street towards Westminster. Perhaps feeling that his silence was brutish, Gordon began to talk. He confided to Ashley that at the airport his aunt and uncle had more or less forced him onto Ned and Portia. "Why don't you guys take the bus into town together?" Hilary had said. "Have a bite to eat somewhere, maybe take in a movie. We'll take care of the luggage." Pete had slipped Gordon £10 and patted him on the shoulder, while Portia bit her lip petulantly, and Ned had done his best to look pleased. "Just as well we did the tactful thing, then," said Ashley. "You really don't have to come to the House of Commons if you don't feel like it, by the way. It's most people's idea of hell, I'd quite understand." "Will they let an American in?" "I just have to wave this," said Ashley, flourishing his pass and trying not to look proud about it. "You going to be a politician?" Maybe. Like Ned?" "I'm sorry?" "Ned's going to follow his father, right?" "I hardly think so," said Ashley, amused. An image came to him of Ned Madstone in grass-stained cricket whites, flicking the golden flop out of his eyes and rising to speak from the government benches on the subject of currency fluctuations and interest rates. Politics and Ned don't quite go together." "Really? Only that's not what Portia said to me." "What do you mean exactly?" "She said Ned had told her he was going to follow his father into Parliament one day." "Well, maybe he will," Ashley said, casually, while something inside him snapped with a familiar fury. Did Ned seriously imagine political seats could be passed on from father to son like writing desks and shooting sticks? Well, perhaps they could, he reflected bitterly. This is, after all, England.